plan for its debt.
Minority in Parliament boycotts sitting to solidarize with what it terms persecuted members in court.
Majority in Parliament condemns minority boycott, calls on minority to rescind decision.
Also in this package, 500 pieces of smuggled fake electricity prepaid and postpaid meters at substandard use fridge destroyed.
Energy think tank questions $750 million 15 years extension of access deal.
And in foreign news, toxic gas leak in South Africa kills 16 people, including 3 children. We have these and more in this bulletin. We are also live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. We heard from the presidency. We are also working on risk financing and insurance that include getting the private sector operations insulated from any climate risk so that they get integrated into the market. That is the Accra Marrakesh agenda, says the head of programs, Climate Vulnerable Forum, Matthew McKinnon, when he called on President Akufo-Addo at the Jubilee House in Accra.
Ghana is now the chair of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, which has the theme Fair Share for All.
July 3, 2023 is on record as the hottest day ever on Earth. As the chair of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, Ghana is trying every possible course of action to leave a lasting legacy in ensuring that there is a level playing field in terms of climate financing. And leading the head of programs, Climate Vulnerable Forum, Matthew McKinnon, to the Jubilee House in Accra, Ghana's Finance Minister, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, said it is necessary to set up an organization that will champion the cause of countries reeling under the weight of climate change.
We just finished a meeting on the issue of a permanent international organization. And Mr. President, that will be the most powerful legacy, because it will be 58 countries where our target is to get to 100. Already there are 27 African countries involved, and then that becomes really the hotbed.
His statement resonated well with Matthew McKinnon and called for debt reforms and to rally the private sector to join the crusade to invest in climate resilient projects.
You know, the Accra Marrakesh agenda, we're looking at debt reform, we're looking at shifting financial flows that are already in the international financial system from brown and risky to make them more available for green and resilient. We would like that the common framework could be more supportive of all of the vulnerable countries and really support this climate prosperity agenda. We are seeking a new global deal on carbon, which ties into the fair share call.
President Akufo-Addo said Ghana is bound to the calls to reduce carbon emissions, but stressed the need for developed economies to honor their pledges.
Ghana has played a very active role. Kufuor was one of the co-chairs of the Paris Summit, our former president. And I think that in itself, symbolically, is a major statement about Ghana's involvement, participation in trying to find solutions, fair solutions, equitable solutions. And I think that the concept of the fair share for all is a slogan that really hits the nail on the head. Yeah, because that is at the end of the day what we should all be looking at. Those who are most responsible for the problem ought to bear the burden, the greater burden of trying to resolve the problem, and that those of us whose participation in it is relatively minimal, we should not be the ones to have to sort of break our necks to find the money to make the adjustments.
Accra hosted a Climate Vulnerable Forum in April 2022 and will lead the V20 countries at the IMF World Bank annual meetings in Marrakesh in Morocco in September this year to push for a better climate financing package.
The National Food Buffer Store Company says it sympathizes with the unfortunate situation that its food suppliers find themselves in themselves in, which has compelled them to picket at the head office premises. The company is also equally concerned about the suppliers' plight and appreciates their patience. In a statement, the Corporate Affairs Department of NAFCO says an emergency board meeting has been scheduled on the situation, and the outcome, including a possible roadmap for resolution, will be shared thereafter. The statement says the board and management of NAFCO are committed to working with all key stakeholders, including the Ministries of Education and Finance, for prompt resolution of the issues. We now go to the northern region, where the Northern Command of the Ghana Armed Forces continues to test its readiness to avert any attack by violent extremist groups in northern Ghana. On Wednesday, the command staged a hostage-taking situation at the Bank of Ghana in Tamale and successfully neutralized the attack and rescued the hostages. The simulation exercise forms part of efforts to prepare the troops for a potential terrorist attack on Ghana.
As the threat of violent extremism increases in the Sahel, stakeholders in Ghana remain vigilant to the security threat across the eastern, western and northern borders with Togo, Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso respectively. Security experts have warned that violent extremist organizations operating in the Sahel are seeking to reach coastal countries including Ghana. Ghana has so far avoided a terrorist attack. However, stakeholders have intensified efforts to prevent and contain violent extremism. While using the soft approach to sensitize citizens to be vigilant, the security forces have also been preparing for a possible attack. The simulation exercise at the Bank of Ghana in Tamale follows a joint multinational exercise dubbed Exercise Africa Lion, which took place in Daboya in the Savannah region. The Chief Operations Officer of the Northern Command Headquarters, Colonel Frank Olanyo Agbegbo, emphasized that the threat of terrorism is real.
We all know what is happening in the Sahel region, where the terrorist groups are all over the place and they are descending southward. So, you know, those terrorists, they need a lot of money to execute their mission. And we assume that in the northern sector here, Bank of Ghana is a very good asset for them if they get it. So because of that, we planned a simulation exercise between Bank of Ghana staff and the security services to see our responses when something like that happens.
Some officers of the Northern Command of the Management of the Bank of Ghana in Tamale observed the exercise from the sidelines.
The whole sector command of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority has destroyed large quantities of contraband and unlicensed goods seized from importers and smugglers at the Akrofo landfill site in the whole municipality of the Volta region. The goods worth thousands of Ghana cedis include pharmaceutical products, aphrodisiacs, expired foods and beverages, and several compressed parcels of Indian hemp. In an interview, the whole sector commander of the GRA, Assistant Commissioner of Customs, Felicia Azuma Dadeboy, said the authority is poised to combat the influx of illegal pharmaceuticals and other products, as well as smuggling along the Ghana-Togo border, to prevent health risk and revenue losses.
The items seized and destroyed included several brands of aphrodisiac, pain relievers, expired carbonated drinks and foreign cigarettes. Also included alcoholic beverages with fake tax stamps, which were confiscated from shops in the Volta region. Compressed parcels of Indian hemp abandoned by smugglers along the borders were also destroyed. Most of the illicit goods were intercepted by customs officers at various entry points in the Volta region, including the Batome Junction, Nive and Shia borders and the Patoi Patrol Base upon tip-off. The whole sector commander of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Assistant Commissioner of Customs, Felicia Azuma Dadeboy, said her officers are on high alert along the borders to clamp down on smugglers of contraband pharmaceuticals and other goods into the country to prevent health risk and revenue losses to the state.
My advice to importers is that before you import, that is what the law requires. Before you import, you have to make the necessary checks with the necessary regulatory agencies and find out the kind of documents or import permits that you require, so that you don't find yourself in this situation where, you know, times are hard. So you find yourself in this situation where you import and get here, and then we ask you to bring the permit. You get to the regulatory agencies and they look at it and realize that, oh, these are fake. This cannot be allowed into the system.
The items were destroyed at Clayfield landfill site in the whole municipality of the Volta region under the supervision of officials from the Environmental Health Department, Environmental Protection Agency, and representatives of the security agencies such as the Police Service and the National Investigations Bureau, NIB, formerly BNI.
Guidelines on what constitutes sexual harassment in the workplace space has officially been documented. The sexual harassment policy launched by the Trades Union Congress Secretariat in Accra, simply put, states that sexual harassment will not be tolerated at work. It is to educate employees about inappropriate behavior. The TUC's Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Joshua Ansah, said when fully implemented, the policy will ensure equal treatment of all. The TUC says this policy for workers across the country define what is considered workplace harassment, prohibited conduct, and specific types of behavior that violates the policy. It ensures that all staff are treated with equal respect and dignity. As part of efforts to assess organizational progress towards gender balance, the TUC Ghana, with support from the Norwegian Confederation of Trade Unions, came up with a sexual harassment policy. The Deputy Secretary General of the TUC, Mr. Joshua Ansah, said the TUC has always championed policies that protect the rights of workers.
We as a movement, we think that we have a big role to play. And when we adopt and launch such a book, and when we know what it takes to be harassment-free environment, we will be able to share that content with people from the outside, in our communities, at homes and at workplaces. So the TUC put itself together, know that when you are able to do something of this sort, you'll be able to show the way for people who are not part of us to learn from us and do what is right, so that our environment will be harassment-free and sexual harassment-free.
The former head of Gender and Child Protection Department at TUC, Madam Alberta Laijan, said the committee will maintain confidentiality of all matters reported to it. She said management will monitor policy and periodically collect data to keep the policy effective.
ILO has developed or adapted Convention 190 on violence and harassment in the world of work. So as part of that, we decided that we'll engage a consultant to interview the workers and develop this policy so that it can help us eradicate harassment and violence at the workplace.
The head of Social Protection, Occupation Safety and Health at the TUC Secretariat, Madame Teresa Abuga, said persons whose cases cannot be handled by the Sexual Harassment Committee would be reported to external authorities like the police, SHRAJ and OFSU.
Amidst the lingering tensions and devastating consequences of the ongoing Ukraine-Russian conflict, Africa is likely to witness more instability and dissatisfaction as a result of its reliance on food and other imports from the two countries. This was disclosed at a seminar on assessing the impact of Ukraine-Russian conflict on Africa at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center in Accra.
It has been more than a year since the Russia-Ukraine war erupted. This has disrupted prices of food and energy around the world, leaving several nations reeling from its aftershocks. Africa has not been exempted. Break in diplomatic channels and high prices of commodities, among others, are being experienced in many African countries. This ostensibly is leading to increased insecurity on the continent due to existing protracted armed conflicts in the Sahel and elsewhere, with related problems such as environmental degradation. The Deputy Commandant of KAIPTC, Air Commodore George Kweku Akudati, said this is not a time to leave the continent behind.
This is not the time to leave the continent behind. As we deliberate on the Russian-Ukraine conflict and its ramifications on Africa, it is my hope that ideas and solutions to mitigate the future effects on Africa will be proffered.
The Deputy Director of Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research, KAIPTC, Dr. Emma Berquine, stated the aim of the seminar.
As we can all testify, if you're a Ghanaian, the last year or two, you've seen how the Russia-Ukraine conflict has had an impact on our very existence. The prices of food, energy has gone up. Everything that we do seems to be affected. Even the political class has used it a lot to justify why we are having the economic challenges that we are having. The importance of this is for them to have a broader knowledge about the crisis. First of all, to have knowledge about it. First of all, in terms of the interventions, what specific interventions can they put in place to mitigate the impact in the region?
Participants were drawn from the political, economic and environmental science fields. Some civil society organizations, bilateral partners and high commissioners were also present. Samuel 50 women at Boase in the Ashanti region, one of the Galamsey communities, have been equipped with some entrepreneurial skills to help them make a living. The initiative by the U.S. Ghana Alumni Association is to help women become self-reliant and reduce the incidence of sexual exploitation in the community.
Apart from the negative effects illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey, has on the environment, it also has some adverse effects on lives. There are reports that girls and women in communities where illegal mining are rife are subjected to sexual exploitation. Mindful of this, the U.S. Ghana Alumni Association organized the Women Empowerment Program in the Ashanti region to equip women with valuable skills to lessen financial burden on them. Participants who were drawn from various communities in and around Obuasi were taken through tutorials with emphasis on safety and protection procedures and various steps in production stages. The women were given the opportunity to try their hands on some of the products, which includes liquid soap, shower gel and afterwash. Some of the participants shared their experience.
As a young lady, in order to gain financial independence so that you don't really rely on guys, you have to at least get a skill where you get your ends meet from so that you don't end up relying on any other man.
A facilitator, Louisa Amwa, said with as little as 90 cedis, one can start liquid soap production and make some profit.
Going through this training, you don't have to rest, you don't have to waste any much time. You just have to kick start because you don't need much money to start.
The Public Relations Secretary of the U.S. Ghana Alumni Association, Mr. Ken Afeji, said the training program is one of the many projects the association has been embarking on with the aim of transforming lives in communities.
I would like to call on all our members to come on board, all members of U.S. Ghana Alumni to come on board because we are on the move. We are trying to effect this change that we are supposed to have in our communities.
The U.S. Ghana Alumni Association has so far implemented a number of projects, including leadership training for head teachers, leadership and literacy projects, as well as setting up of LITT clubs in selected senior high schools across the country.
You're watching us live on GBC News and on GT. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation.
We'll be right back with more stories.
Stay with us.
Good evening. Welcome to Business, brought to you by MTN. MTN is everywhere you go. We start on climate financing. Africa has in the last 2 decades lost over $200 billion due to climate change, and Ghana currently is needing $4.2 billion to meet the cost of implementing climate change adaptation actions. This, according to the Minister for Finance, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, would demand $8.9 billion from international sources to be duly implemented.
Africa has been affected the most by climate change than most other parts of the world, despite bearing the least responsibility for the problem. With nearly 1/5 of the world's population today, Africa accounts for less than 3% of the world's energy-related carbon dioxide emissions. At the Global Shield Initiative Forum in Accra, which aims at increasing protection for climate-vulnerable economies and communities, the Minister for Finance, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, said Ghana signing up for the Global Shield against climate risks demonstrates the country's commitment to minimize the losses caused by climate change.
In order to build a climate-resilient economy and transition to a low-carbon development pathway, it is imperative that we make informed decisions based on reliable data at both the national and subnational levels in order to minimize the impact of climate change and enable development-positive climate action. Accurate information regarding climate risk is vital for identifying vulnerable areas, designing appropriate adaptation strategies, and allocating resources.
The Minister at the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Kwekwe Friyi, said the challenge now is how to get the environment back to the pre-industrial era while maintaining the comforts and benefits of science and technology today.
Developed countries need to step up and stop dodging scrutiny and work to rebuild trust with developing countries, delivering on their climate finance commitments. Here, I oppose to say that we are in all this together. Sometimes I ask myself, if climate, all those things, 96% were caused by developed countries plus India and China, which are developing fast, then why the hell should Africa even attend all these things? Because as for mitigation, that is your fault.
The German ambassador to Ghana, Mr. Daniel Kroll, said he is pleased that some G7 countries have committed to follow the steps of Germany by committing monies to mitigate the effects of climate change. Germany has put in a 170 million euro seed money towards the cause.
Let's go to Guinea-Bissau, where the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Task Force chairman, Dr. Mohamed Ibn Chambers, is asking African leaders not to rely on Russia and Ukraine as the breadbasket for Africa's agricultural needs. He described AFCFTA as timely and a catalyst for already existing protocols on free movement of persons and goods and services.
Yes, so it is time now for action and not for more analysis and more meetings on these issues. If you look at other sub-regions, let me just give an example, the Southeast Asian countries, which sometimes we in Africa want to emulate. Intra-ASEAN trade is 65% and growing. In West Africa, it is still around 12 to 15%. Incidentally, when I was in ECOWAS, and we are looking at more than 10 years ago, it was the same level.
So nothing has changed.
Which is to say that in the past decade, nothing has changed. This is an issue that should be of concern to us, especially as we have so many young people who are unemployed. A region that trades among itself means that it produces more goods and services for trade. That means it creates job opportunities for its young people. That means that it puts itself in a more competitive position to trade even globally. So coming back to the basics of ECOWAS, trade among ourselves, for me, that will open so many doors, including even accelerating the process towards a common currency. Why do you need a common currency? you need a common currency to facilitate trade. So if you are not trading among yourselves, that is also maybe even a disincentive for working towards the common currency. It is no longer tenable for us in Africa, for us in West Africa, to be depending so heavily on external countries for our agricultural needs. Russia and Ukraine cannot be the breadbasket of Africa. We have the potential within West Africa. Take a small example of what Nigeria has done so far in rice cultivation, when the focus was placed back on it and the right policy measures were taken. Each of our countries in West Africa has the potential to produce and to feed itself. So for me, this external crisis has only once again reminded us of what we ought to be doing to feed ourselves, to produce what we eat, and to produce even more to enhance our economy.
Also in business, the National Information Technology Agency is developing legislative instruments for the implementation of the NITA Act and the Electronic Transaction Acts. For a long time, operationalizing the two acts has become challenging because of the absence of legislative instruments.
Lack of effective legislative instruments which will guide the operations of this act has been hampering our digitalization efforts. We've been trying to work with the Public Procurement Agency to ensure that all procurement of ICT goods and services are done with the input of NITA. If an agency doesn't do it, how do you ensure that they actually abide by it? You need the processes that will tell them that when you are procuring goods and services, you need to consult NITA because the LI says so, and that LI is referable to this act. All these things were lacking. When an agency is doing something and they do not involve NITA in the, just like the Attorney General is the legal advisor to government, we see NITA as the ICT advisor to government. Not all of us are experts in this area. So we've left it for the service providers to dictate the pace of our digitalization without the policy maker determining the how and the when and the what.
Oh, and just as I've said, it is going to give us the operational mandate. It will clear any ambiguities, it will take the high level stuff, which is what the Primary Act does. And then that's why you have subsidiary legislation, and you will bring it down to a level where everybody would understand.
Let's go to the interbank forex markets and bring you updates on how the cedi is performing.
In energy news, the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, has started installing 40,000 new prepaid meters in the Western region, leading the ECG management team to visit the various areas for the exercise. The Regional General Manager, Mr. Emmanuel Justice Ofori, said aside from the deployment of the new meters, there is an ongoing installation exercise for customers who earlier applied for smart meters. Mr. Ofori encouraged customers interested in the new smart meters to apply.
ECG's Regional General Manager Emmanuel Ofori said the new meters will bring satisfaction to customers and curb the delays in the acquisition of meters. Mr. Ofori said ECG remains dedicated to the cause of offering quality services to customers.
So we want to assure people of Western region that we have started and the meters will be coming. Some have come and more will be coming. So those who still need meter, those who need new services, they can apply and then we will deliver on time. Now we have various type of meter available. We have a premium service also. So if someone requires premium service, he can apply for it and then get it as soon as possible.
On the issue of unpaid bills, Mr. Ofori said measures are in place to retrieve the arrears. He also cautioned the public to avoid doing business with unscrupulous persons with the aim of getting quick results, but rather visit the offices of the company for their electricity-related services.
We have started a program, a loss reduction program, and this program is aimed at capturing all meters. Customers who have not been captured will all be captured into our system so that we can bill and then increase our revenue.
Some customers who received the new meters were grateful to the ECG. They commended the company for introducing the smart meters and the ECG Power.
About 500 pieces of fake electricity prepaid and postpaid meters and substandard used fridges owned by importers and smugglers have been destroyed at the Akofo landfill site in the whole municipality. The whole sector command of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority destroyed the meters under the supervision of the Electricity Company of Ghana. In an interview, the whole sector commander of GRA, Assistant Commissioner of Customs, Madame Felicia Dade Boy, said the authority is on the alert to combat the influx of fake ECG meters and other products that come through the Ghana-Togo border.
If you look at the meters, this is supposed to be imported by ECG, but individuals have taken it upon themselves to import these fake ones. But for the vigilance of our officers, these meters would have gone into the system and people would be using it and causing financial loss to the state, because you can imagine the revenue that ECG would have lost if these meters had gone into the system.
And the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACERB, is questioning government's decision to extend its contract with ASCA plant for 15 years. In ACERB's July 2023 report, it said the AXA power plant, which is overaged, earned the company about $700 million for capital recovery and fixed operation and maintenance, while delivering an average of 16% utilization between 2017 and 2022. In view of this, ACERB is concerned about the extension, which assigns a capital recovery charge of an approximate $750 million over the extended period.
According to ACERB, the AXA power plants are old Wärtsilä engines assembled by a private developer during the Dumsor period in 2015, with units from various countries, including Cyprus and Sri Lanka, procured at between $1.2 million and $2 million per unit. ACERB noted that the facility has been overpaid for. The report argued that the facility does not comply with engineering features of new power generation systems. ACERB estimates that the total investment cost of the projects should not exceed $60 million. It further questioned why both the Energy Commission and Public Utilities Regulatory Commission (PURC) approved the deal, given its potential negative impact on the power sector. ASEP maintained that deploying the most efficient power plants in Ghana is crucial for the long-term sustainability and prudent management of the sector to save costs and ensure reliability.
Lufat from Tobinco. About 424 frontline health workers in the Bono East region have received honorable mention by the government for their various roles at the peak of the country's fight against COVID-19. The presidential awards initiated by President Akufo-Addo acknowledges the exceptional sacrifice of the frontline health workers and their invaluable service during the pandemic. Our Bono East regional correspondent Samuel Ayama has more in this report.
On the roll for applause were nurses, midwives, doctors, officials from the National Ambulance Service, pharmacists, nutrition officers, laboratory technicians, as well as support staff such as drivers, electricians, and laundry attendants. Each of them received a certificate of recognition signed by the President. On behalf of the President, the Bono East Regional Minister, Mr. Kwesi Adujan, said the awards were a national honor to applaud the efforts of the frontline workers who risked their lives to save others. While acknowledging the good works and dedication of the staff in health delivery, he admonished them to remain professional in the discharge of their duties.
Because of you, Ghana was named as the third country in the whole world for the way COVID-19 pandemic was managed. Collectively, your efforts have helped Ghana keep her COVID-19 death rate very, very low and manage the pandemic well. At a time, infections continue to recur in other countries. This recognition does not go to you as individuals alone, but to all the selfless workers and volunteers in healthcare, security, and other professionals who stepped forward during the pandemic period.
The Bono East Regional Director of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Frederick Adumakobuatin, lauded the government for the gesture and said it was a good morale booster for the staff.
If you look at the case fatality for Ebola, if it was the same for COVID, it would have been something else. So let's document these lessons. Let's celebrate with our awardees. Today is a great day, and I believe that they stand in the stead for all of us, so that even those that did not and those that got, together we celebrate the spirit behind this.
Some of the excited recipients spoke to GBC News.
But we won this award by simply doing our work, and so I'll continue to put in my best efforts to make sure that the health of Ghanaians is really catered for.
Auntie, me catch you be as a pandemic be a baby and obi and fanny who
Going forward, I think we're giving all our best, at least, to make sure that whenever there's any issue in the system, we'll be able to clear it.
In all, 19,557 frontline health and allied health workers are expected to receive this award across the country. Samuel Ayama, GBC News, Kintampo.
We say equal to our health workers. The health segment was brought to you by Lufa from Tobinco.
Foreign front, South African police and local officials say at least 16 people, including 3 children, were killed late Wednesday by a leak of a toxic nitrate gas being used by illegal miners to process gold in a settlement of closely packed metal shacks.
Initially announced that as many as 24 people might be dead in the Angelo settlement in Boksburg, a city on the eastern outskirts of Johannesburg. But police and Gauteng province premier Panyara Lusefi later said the number of deaths had been confirmed as 16 after a recount of the bodies. Teams were searching the area looking for other casualties deep into the night. The bodies of the victims remained lying on the ground hours after the leak was reported at about 8 p.m. as emergency services waited for the forensic investigators and pathologists to arrive to process the scene. Police said the 3 children killed were aged 1, 6 and 15. Authorities didn't say if the illegal miners they believed to be responsible for the gas leakage were among the casualties. Illegal mining is rife in the gold-rich areas around Johannesburg, where miners go into closed-off and disused mines to search for any deposits left overs.
Away from the foreign front, the minority in Parliament on Thursday boycotted sitting to accompany 2 members of the caucus to court. Minority Leader Dr. Kaysel Atuforsen and the MP for Asin North, Mr. James Jachi Kwesen, were due to appear in court today for the ongoing trial of their cases. This was contained in a release signed by the Minority Chief Whip, Mr. Govins Kwame Agboja. The absence affected the business of the House as the Health Minister was scheduled to answer a few questions from both sides. Lawyers for MP for Asin North, James Gyakye have moved an application for stay of proceedings at the High Court, while the Court of Appeal determines an appeal against the court's decision to hear Mr. Kweson's criminal case on daily basis. Chachuchi Kata, arguing their case, said continuing the matter would prejudge the issues of their right of fair trial, right to be presumed innocent, as well as the limit of discretionary power of the court. Meanwhile, an audio with the voice of President Akufo-Addo allegedly remarking on Mr. Kweson was played in court as evidence to back their claim.
Lawyers for Mr. Kweson argued that the application, if not granted, would convey the impression of a predetermined outcome of the trial. He argued further that it is an exceptional circumstance when it could lead to a person presumed innocent being unjustly tried. A portion of President Akufo-Addo's audio recordings expressing his view about Mr. James Gyakye during a campaign rally ahead of the Asin North by-election last month was played in open court. The audio is part of comment referenced to by Mr. Chachuchi Kata to support his argument about alleged prejudicial remarks against Mr. Gyakye. The Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Mr. Godfred Yeboah-Dame, in his argument opposing the application, noted that lawyers for plaintiff are seeking to waste the court's time with the instant application. Prior to playing the audio by the defense team, Mr. Dame opposed the move, saying playing 15 seconds of the audio was unjust. He added that the full video should have been played to give the court a proper context of the issues being referred to by Mr. Chikata. Mr. Dame described the application a bundle of confusion grounded on distortion, which must be rejected. Justice Mary Mame Ikuya Yanzu, in a short ruling, said she would deliver her ruling on the application for stay of proceedings on Tuesday, 11 July 2023. Also in court, the case involving the minority leader, Dr. Kasi Atu Forson. Also in court, the case involving the minority leader, Dr. Atu Forson, was adjourned to July 13, 2023. The adjournment became necessary due to the absence of Richard Jakpa, third accused, who is reportedly unwell. Dr. Forson, together with a former chief director of the Ministry of Health, Sylvester Animana, and a businessman, Richard Jakpa, had been accused of causing financial loss to the state to the tune of 2.37 million euros in the deal to purchase some ambulances for the country between 2014 and 2016.
Welcome to the sports segment. The second edition of the Accra Intercity Homowo Marathon has been officially launched. This year's event is set on Friday, August 4th, 2023.
On Friday, August 4, 2023, Accra will be running. More than 1,000 runners are expected to participate in the second edition of the Accra Intercity Homowo Marathon. The marathon will feature race categories of 21 kilometers, 10 kilometers, and 5 kilometers. The marathon aims to promote physical fitness, healthy lifestyle, and the talent of young athletes in long-distance running. At the official launch of the event at the Accra Metropolitan Assembly Conference Room, organizers, Med-Event Consult, unveiled the running vest for the various categories of the marathon. The race director of the Accra Intercity Homowo Marathon, Mr. William Eza, urged all to register and participate.
We want to make it an annual event, and so this year we are going to organize the marathon once more. Last year we had close to 800 people running. We want to have more this year. We have an operation of hitting 1,000 and above. That is why we are encouraging all of you to be part of the race and make it a success. The start point will be at Accra Sports Stadium. We have to end at the community where the Homowo is Homowo, that is the Manchagona, the Gamashi, so the race will end there.
The General Manager of Serene Insurance, Nana Yao Owusu Jumo, announced that all participants in the race will receive 1,000 cedis insurance cover, totaling 1 million Ghana cedis in insurance packages.
The winner will be participating in the South African, the Soweto one, that we are giving a full travel insurance cover to the winner of the marathon.
The Metropolitan Chief Executive of Accra, Mrs. Elizabeth Saki, expressed their excitement about partnering with MedEvent Consult and the Traditional Council for the marathon.
We at the Accra Metropolitan Assembly are also delighted to adopt the race as part of programs and activities marking the 125 years anniversary celebration of the Assembly.
Officials see the winner of the marathon will represent Ghana in the Soweto Marathon in South Africa later in the year.
16 community football teams from the Zango communities in Accra will vie for the 2023 Sackers Peace Football Cup competition. The second edition has been launched by the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Dr. Usman Nuru Shaributu. The competition starts from the 16th of July this year in Fadama. That's an entertainment segment.
Hello. Some fresh air as I present to you the art and entertainment news. I'm Hagar Owusu, and to our first story, High Life legend Pat Thomas has paid a visit to former Trade Minister Mr. Alan Kyerematen to invite him to his upcoming musical concert scheduled for next month of August at the Accra International Conference Center.
Managers of the legendary High Life musician Pat Thomas launched a musical concert a few weeks ago to celebrate the lifetime achievements of this great musician as he turns 76 this year. The Pat Thomas High Life Night is scheduled to take place at the Accra International Conference Center in August this year. The Sikaye Moja hitmaker visited Mr. Alan Kyerematen to invite him to share in his good fortune and take some rhythmic steps at his concert.
Pat Thomas invitation, Pat Thomas High Life Night, Mr. Alan Kyerematen. Party there, or evergreen, refugee and yegi. On
that special night, there will be performances from High Life giants like Kojo Enchi, Ohene Bakisi, Akwaboah, Bisakede, the man himself, Pat Thomas, and many others.
Indeed, celebrating one of our High Life legends. That's all we have in this news packet. My name is Sarah Furi.
And I am Samuela Kwoti. Jonathan Itimdaku translated the news into sign language. Have a good evening. Bye for now.